Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome back to Gregtech New Horizons. I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. I am really looking forward to this episode. But I'm going to be a bit ambitious today, as I would like to move our whole oil cracking facility and chemistry area. I don't know what you want to call it, basically every machine in this room that you can see. So it's going to be quite the undertaking. But essentially what we're doing here is we're taking raw oil, we are distilling and processing, and then steam cracking, and then distilling again. And then from the distillation tower, we make a whole bunch of different chemicals and plastics. For example, we have polytetrafluoroethylene, we have silicon rubber, polyethylene, polyvinyl chloride, epoxy, sulfuric acid, so many things. My head is going to be fried by the end of this. I can already tell. But truthfully, chemistry is actually one of my favorite things to do in this pack. It's going to be a good time, I think. Lots of problem solving, but I think you guys are also going to enjoy it because we're going to be changing our strategy on some things, changing the way that we handle some fluid movement and some of the logic in here. So as you know, most of these are going to be fluids. I guess they're chemicals, but for the purposes of Applied Energistics, they are stored as fluid. So in addition to moving all the machines, I would also like to reconsider how we are storing, managing and distributing fluids. Currently they're all stored here, most of them are stored here in super tanks with fluid P2P. So we're going to be moving all of these things to the void, and I have a feeling as soon as we start to do this, everything is going to break, because on some of the fluids we have fluid detector covers, and this essentially wirelessly redstone controls the machines in other areas of the base. So as soon as we start ripping things out here, well, the whole house of cards is going to come crashing down, and it's going to be a nightmare, but we might as well get it over with, right? I think it's going to be fun. But yeah, as I said, lots and lots of problem solving today. So to help us move over, we're going to also pick up some quality of life upgrades today, some very long overdue quality of life upgrades. But first of all, a recap on last episode. So we crafted our multi-block battery, the Lapitronic supercapacitor, which can hold 4.2 billion EU, it's currently at 2.3. It's been through several cycles since the last episode. The blast furnaces have been running, but I'll catch you guys up on all that's changed between episodes in a second. But having this battery here is going to help us out, because obviously we need power in this dimension to power the new oil cracking facility, which I am thinking is going to go over here. And by the way, you might see some new structures in this base. We have so much chemistry to do today and technical things that I'm going to talk about the building strategy another day. But by the way, most of this I'm probably going to end up doing off camera, since it's going to be almost the same recipes that we've been running previously. But I'll take you guys through some of the upgrades and the change in strategy for how we're managing fluids. But either way, we're going to have Applied Energistics and also a power connection under here. And speaking of Applied Energistics, also in the last episode we worked on moving item storage over to the void dimension. And you'll be pleased to know that I did finish off this process between episodes. So I used the ender chest to move all the items between dimensions, and then sent it all into an interface. And because of the filtering we set up last episode, Applied Energistics was smart enough to put everything in the correct storage destination. So most of our items are on storage cells stored in the ME drives, and the output of the crops is stored in super chests so that we can manage overflow voiding. And remember, these are sticky destinations because of the sticky card. And so yeah, it actually took way fewer storage cells than I thought it would. I thought we'd have like 2 or 3 rows filled of just drives, but no, apparently all of our items fit on these storage cells here. Okay, so now that we have a plan established, let's begin with the quality of life upgrades. So I've been doing quite a bit of crafting off camera in between episodes, along with the building. I didn't really feel like recording, but I still wanted to get my Gregtech fix. So I've been in this world quite a long time, but I'll catch you guys up on all that's changed. So the first thing we're going to craft is an EV field generator. Not cheap, it does take a wither star, but it turns out we had one spare. In fact, I think we have 3 spare, so we've got a couple extra, but wither stars, actually, I remembered we have that set up in the nether, so it's really not so bad to get any extra. And so essentially what I want to craft here is something called the wireless charger. And this thing does exactly what it says on the tin, and will keep all of our armor and tools fully charged so long as we're in range. So we have to give it energy, we have to plug it into power somewhere. I think it's going to be in the void dimension, since there's not really any point in setting up infrastructure here. And so there are several different tiers of wireless charger. The one that I want to get is the EV one. It's a good compromise, I feel like, between cost and functionality. All of these are different ranges and different rates of charge. However, I believe we should have it in this assembling machine here. And also in this assembler, we're going to craft up some more superconductor. You might remember this as being the material we crafted for the jetpack. We need to craft a few more here. This should be the recipe. Is it circuit 9? Yeah, circuit 9. Uh-oh. I didn't want to do that, but we should be able to downcraft that back. Yeah, so while that's crafting, the second quality of life upgrade we're going to make is by picking up the Vajra. And this thing is a super duper OP mining tool. And it can essentially insta-mine any block or machine in the game. You guys have been telling me to craft it for quite some time, and I think today is the day. Today is a perfect day actually, because we're going to be tearing out all these machines. And while we have a really good wrench, it's made of shadow metal and it has 128 mining speed. So it's a really, really good wrench, but still not insta-mine on any of the machine casings. And there's a lot of machine casings to rip out here. So we are very close to being able to craft this thing. It does take iridium, and our iridium supplies are... Oh, actually we have a bit more than I thought. It's just not all blast furnace. So we need these iridium reinforced plates, which are made in the implosion compressor. So I did make those between episodes, along with the majority of the other things here. We're missing a Vajra core, which does take the superconductor. Oh, I didn't enable auto output on that machine again. It should be finished though, right? Yeah, 24 more superconductor, and that should be enough to get our 3 12x cable, I think we need. 1, 2, and this should be the third one. Yes, 3 12x IV superconductor wire. Which is just so expensive. It's so expensive. But it's going to be worth it, I think. Yeah, so what are we missing here? We're missing the Vajra core, which is the 2 iridium plates, a Tesla coil. I mean, that isn't super expensive. A transformer. We also need the magnetron, which also isn't too expensive. It's just copper and neodymium. And then finally, we need something called the engraved energy chip. And this, I realized, is an IV recipe, so I've prepared the materials here for an IV laser engraver. So to run the recipe, we need to give it a ruby lens and an energy crystal. Let's make sure we're not in the rain here. Can you imagine we just blew it up right after we crafted it? So we're going to give it a battery, a lapatronic energy orb, ruby lens, and the crystal, and it's 30 seconds. Oh yeah, the thunderstorms are back as well. We should have more than enough charge in this thing. I hope that's not a bad sign. Okay, let's grab this back. And I guess we'll just stick it away in the ME system right now, since we don't really need to use it. I mean, there's not really anywhere we can use it at the moment. But yeah, that should be everything for the Vajra, right? And potentially also a quest, although I didn't check the quests. Alright, so I went ahead and placed the wireless charger here. We're next to the battery. So this is an EV machine, right? We have to give this EV power. So out of the battery, we take IV power, and then we go up to LUV to send power around the base through the green cable. So we're going up to LUV and then immediately back down to IV, and then into EV, and then into the wireless charger. But maybe you guys can let me know, is it more efficient to do it this way, or should we transform down to EV before we go up to LUV? I'm honestly not sure. I think it's going to only use as much power as it needs to. And that is, from what I understand, influenced by which mode the charger is in. So we can either go for long range mode, we can go for a local mode, or we can go for mixed. And I think we're going to go for the mixed mode, because mixed mode gives us 4,096 blocks of range. Whereas the long range is 8,192. We certainly don't need that much. But the local mode is only 80 blocks, at least for us here in EV tier, which I felt really wasn't enough, so I think the mixed mode is going to be the best option for us here. I don't know how big our base is eventually going to be, but I mean, 4,000 blocks is way more than we need for charging. And it does seem to keep the Vajra full. Oops. That was close. And also the jetpack. But I've been getting familiar with this Vajra. It's super awesome. So it's fully instamine on every single block. And that also includes the Gregtech casings, which is really nice. We also do have a Silk Touch mode on this thing, which you can enable with the IC2 mode switch key. This one here with Z. This thing has a weird toggle on it. It doesn't always enable or disable. You can probably hear the key. But yeah, we can like Silk Touch with this thing. So I decided to rearrange our bags and reconsider the hotbar setup. We carry around 2 bags, right? We have the adventure backpack. So this is a before shot. And this is the after. I was able to significantly clean up the bags here, since of course we have Silk Touch, right? So we don't need to carry around the shovel or the pick or the sword. I think it actually does some pretty decent damage. I was in the nether getting some more wither stars, and this thing did seem like it done more damage than the sword. And so the second backpack we have is this orange one, which is in a different slot, the backpack slot. So here's a before shot, and here's the after shot. Lots of the things from the other backpack have now been stored in this backpack. I don't really know, to be honest, why I'm still carrying the pickaxe and the shovel and things, but I don't know, we have enough space for it. We might as well carry it around on the off chance we need to shear a sheep. Although I very much doubt we're going to ever be shearing sheep again. But yeah, I tried to make sure we have everything that we're going to need on at least a semi-consistent basis. We have some carbon to recharge the crossbow, or repair the crossbow. We have some spare mining pipe, we have some lamps in case we're on some other planets and we need lighting. Although I guess we do have night vision now, so maybe these are irrelevant. But I guess for preventing mob spawns on other planets, around the miners and so on. We also have Terra Wart, which can clear debuffs, so if you pick up super tanks. Oh, we can also test the Vajra Silk Touch here. Does it work on super tanks? It does. Oh, I guess this isn't full enough to give us debuffs. Normally you get debuffs if you have a full super tank. Let's find one that's full. Distilled water. Yeah, we get like 5 minutes of debuffs. So to clear it, you can use Terra Wart. So I always carry some of that around, and we are farming it automatically. We have some spare food. We have the spray cans for the cables. Thumbcraft foci. We have our Spectre key, which takes us to another dimension. I'm not sure how many of you guys will remember this actually, but we should be able to make use of this pretty soon. Yeah, it takes us to this like cube in another dimension, and we have like some oxygen set up here. Just in case we're on another planet and we run out of oxygen, we have some backup. And it looks like also some empty compressed chests. Yep, and it should teleport us back to where we used the key. What else do we have here? I think that's pretty much it. Some Thaumcraft gear, and some things to distribute and move fluids around. But yeah, essentially this way the only things we have to carry now is the Vajra and the potion flask, since one of the functionalities of this adventure backpack is you can have something called tool cycling. And what this does is you can shift scroll wheel with a tool in your hand and tool cycling on. And depending on which tools you have in these slots here, you can switch to these if you're holding another tool. So we still have the snips, which are for all the wiring. We have a wrench, and we still need a wrench, to be honest. I realise we still need a wrench, even though we can break all the casing, as sometimes it's necessary to rotate things, and it seems that the Vajra cannot rotate. So So it doesn't act like a Gregtech tool. We can't rotate anything this way. We need to still carry the wrench around. Oh my goodness, that is satisfying. Oh, nice. Okay, so for fluid storage, we essentially have 3 different options. By the way, I removed that cable since I moved it up 2 blocks between episodes, since we now have these extra structures. I think it works a little nicer with it through the middle rather than underneath the structure. But everything should still be more or less the way it was. So we have 3 different options for fluid storage. We can either use fluid storage cells, which may or may not be something we pick up at a later stage. The second option is to go for the yacht tank, which is a multi-block fluid storage tank. And to be honest, I think we can craft this by now. It doesn't look too expensive. But we'll maybe stretch for this at a later stage, because we don't really need to store that high quantity of fluids at the moment. But it's not going to be so difficult to switch to later on, so I think for the time being we're going to stick with the super tank method. So you might be wondering what's different. Well, we're going to get rid of all of the fluid P2Ps. So the benefit to fluid P2Ps is they have infinite throughput rates. So essentially, as fast as you can insert into a fluid P2P, it will happily send an infinite amount through to the connected side. And previously we used these everywhere for both the insertion into the machine and also the output side. But I want to move away from fluid P2P. And instead we're going to make use of both the ME output hatch as well as the dual interface and a couple of other things like the fluid level emitter. It's going to be very situational. But the benefit to switching away from fluid P2P is that we have access in our AE system for fluid autocrafting. So the one thing about fluid P2P is it does not expose whatever fluid is connected to your AE system. Like for example, acetic acid. We have a fluid P2P here, right? But if we check the terminal, there's not one there. We need to get a wireless fluid terminal or a wireless AE terminal in general. But if we check the terminal here, we're not going to see any acetic acid. And that is because we need the fluid storage bus on the back to enable Applied Energistics to view and interact with this fluid. So we do have it on some of them, but we're going to make it on all of the tanks, and we're going to remove the fluid P2P. So let's just batch craft a whole bunch of fluid storage buses. Now, the other thing we have to be aware of with the fluid P2Ps is, let's grab the memory card here. So the other thing about the fluid P2Ps is if we break this side, and you can see on the tooltip there, it says input side. If we break the input, then everything that's connected to oxygen, look how many things are connected to oxygen. Look how many, look how many things in the base take oxygen. If we break that input side, then all of these frequencies disappear, and it's all going to be broken, and it's going to be a big mess, especially here at the plat line. We want to keep this operational, right, as long as we can. Although I think I've decided that I will rebuild this in the void dimension. I'll definitely do that off camera though, but I want to introduce you to the new method of, yeah, even through here. I want to get you guys familiar with the changes that we're making first, so I'll build the plat line another day. But yeah, if we break this input side, then all of it is going to break. So I think what I've decided we're going to do... Oh, nice, and the craft got stuck. Where is that thing? Oh my goodness, this assembler PA. I've had so many recipe conflicts in here, it's insane. We have to get ourselves a precise assembler, like ASAP. I've actually added our HV assembling machine here. I'm just going to give it to this one, because I don't think there's a circuit number. Or maybe I just have the wrong recipe, I'm not sure. But my goodness, the amount of times that I have to manually come and fix this machine is crazy. We need to fix that as well. Yeah, so what I've decided we're going to do is build duplicate fluid storage for every fluid, and then slowly phase them out in the overworld whenever we don't need them. And that way we don't break setups that already exist, and we still have the functionality to slowly start to move things over here to the void. So we're going to put fluid storage buses on... Wait, we shouldn't leave these unfiltered, right? Let's disconnect first and make sure we can set the filters on the storage buses. Yeah, and similar to the super chests, we can upgrade the super tanks and then eventually switch to the multi-block tank if needs be. Right now these are only super tank 1s, but it goes all the way up to 5, which stores 64 million. And then similarly we have the quantum tank, which stores 2 billion. So arguably this is better than fluid storage cells, plus we have the ability to overflow void here, similar to the super chests, whereas we don't have that functionality with the fluid storage cells. So yeah, we're not going to break the house of cards here. This is probably actually going to be the last thing that's going to be moved over to the void. That actually makes the most sense, right? There's no point in bringing a hammer to this. So one of the things we absolutely want to make sure of is once we start to demolish here, we are 100% able to plug them back in the void. And for some of that, we're going to need like circuits, and all of these chemicals are used in circuit production, more or less. Especially things like epoxid and polytetrafluoroethylene is used to craft these machine casings. And for some of the processes here, during some of the planning, this LCR shares 4 different recipes, but we're going to split it and do 1 recipe per machine, since it's a bit faster and more efficient and a bit cleaner that way. So we'll have to craft up some more of these casings, and we need polytetrafluoroethylene to do so. So just having a look at our supplies here, I think we're good for most things. We need rubber to coat cable. We're good on polyvinyl chloride. We're good on polyethylene. And again, this is just the fluids with fluid storage buses on. Some of these fluids are also sent over to this room here, which processes the crops, but we also have things for like polyethylene fluid solidification, or I guess this is polytetrafluoroethylene, PTFE for short. Oh my goodness, so many chemicals already. But yeah, so I think we've got enough supply to last us between when we break down the machines and when we set them up again. The other thing is power. So ideally we actually increase the speed of all these things, because if I remember right, most of these machines are LV. So grey cable for us is LV, this is HV. So it looks like there's a good mix here. This is, again, HV, HV, more HV, more, oh, this is EV on the end. And then MV, LV. So we might want to upgrade the energy hatches. And to do all that, we obviously need to connect it up with power cables, right? We obviously don't have access to wireless energy right now. That's like hundreds of hours down the line. However, between episodes, I did go ahead and create some recipes for vanadium gallium, which is our LUV power spine cable of choice. So I added a mixer recipe and a blast furnace recipe and batchcraft a couple hundred. So right now there's some more cable crafting, but this should be enough to get us from the battery over to, which side is it? Yeah, on the east side. It should be enough to get us over to that area and connect us up with some power. So I think we've committed at this point to having power underneath and, oh, we need the snips. Power underneath and then Applied Energistics on top. This is just a temporary connection right here. So we'll run Applied Energistics through those cables that we saw earlier. And I've also moved the power cables one block down. I've done that over here as well, just to pass any other cables which might end up lingering below, like here for example. So the main power spine is going to be one block below the platform, and it looks like I also missed some cable covering here. And all this will have to be green. Oh, actually, one of you guys commented that we can shift right click. Is that right? Huh, it says on the tooltip here, if used while sneaking, will spray a chain of blocks. Maybe we have to be standing on something? No? Oh, there we go. Oh, that's super cool. That's awesome. Thank you, by the way, whoever commented that. I'll find your comment. Oh no, and it also got... It also spray painted the Applied Energistics cable. That's cool, but not really what we wanted. I guess it is only a temporary setup, so... Oh man, that is such a cool feature. That's awesome. Alright, let's get power all the way down here. So one of the other things I done between episodes is move the miner. And if you'll recall, it was on a manganese vein in the overworld last episode. We went to collect it and never placed it again. So I went ahead and put it down in the nether dimension on a sulfur vein. And it's on sulfur so we can get something called sphalerite. And sphalerite is mixed with galena and aluminium concentrate. Something like that. And these three machines here to make indium dust. Indium dust is used in the later tier of circuits. I don't know if I'm going to keep these machines with the others. I might separate them out and put them elsewhere. But yeah, we should be getting indium from our miner. But one of the other things I done to make moving the miner a bit easier is in the auto crafting room, well, do you guys remember we have that extra ender tank, which used to be on the old blast furnace setup here in the overworld? Well, I found a little space and plugged in the MV mixer, and this thing is just mixing us drilling fluid, which is one of the fluids you need to run the miner. And so now it's being sent through the ender tank, and we don't have to set it up on site anymore, so it's not pretty, but it does the job, and it's one less thing to have to set up whenever we move the miner. And I suppose it will also find a space in the new base eventually. Again, not really a priority, it's just something that's going to help us, and we can put our ender tanks to use. Okay, we're a few vanadium gallium short, and this assembler is broken again. What is even going on? Did I just forget to turn it back on? Is that what it is? Is it me? Yeah, I'm the problem, it's me. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're only a couple of cables short on the power, but I'm going to have to sort out transformers and then also start placing down these machines. So I think I've kept you long enough. I'm just going to get started on this, and then it's going to be much easier to explain once it's done. But yeah, essentially I'm going to be moving the fluids one by one, and giving them a new space in fluid storage, and trying to fill out all of these machines here. The layout might change quite significantly, and I have no idea how long this is going to take me, but honestly I'm looking forward to it. Most of the things are crafted, right? So we just have to move it over. But it's always easier said than done. So here goes nothing, I guess. So I've been looking forward to doing this, and it did not disappoint. This brings me back to like the Nomi factory days, setting up all this chemistry, where we don't have to worry about resources necessarily. Like, we have all the stuff to build it, and it's just putting it all together, fitting all the logic together, putting all the pieces of the puzzle. And check this out, we've got the first of our petrochemistry area over here in the new base in the void. Obviously not finished yet. You might be asking, where's the rest of the LCRs? They are still in this room, and well, this room is looking very different to what it was before. But man, it was so therapeutic to tear down everything with the Vajra here. It was so good, it was honestly amazing, and we still have a bit more to go as well, so I'm still going to set up the LCRs this episode, so stick around to see what that looks like, because to be honest, I'm not entirely sure where they're going to be placed. I think they're going to be here, but I still might change and move them over the other side. Anyways, I thought I'd bring you guys back at this point because I think it's valuable to run you through my thought process for how we're going to handle the distillation tower fluid outputs. So most of it is actually done and filtered already. A lot of the LCRs, the oil crackers. I'm not sure about this one here, the one on the top. I think I'm going to change that and move it. It just looks a bit strange when it's stacked on top of the oil crackers here. And besides, we might add more oil crackers in the future, and if that's the case, we might as well just stack them. So I'm like 99% sure I'm going to move that LCR, but I'll do that when I build the others and figure out a layout. By the way, I managed to keep everything all chunk aligned, and I want to try to continue that moving forward wherever possible. But yeah, let's just continue this setup of the distillation towers on camera, since I know some of you guys like the live setup of the machines. So we have to oh nice, they're crafted already. I've crafted over a stack of interfaces, by the way. So many super tanks, so many cables, so many of like just about everything. So I know this is probably going to be confusing to many of you guys, but just bear with me. I'll try to explain it all afterwards, just to give you a recap of what we're doing here, in case you guys also want to know the recipes that we're running. But I did leave signs on everything, so yeah, this is our raw oil. So this is effectively the beginning of the process. For now, we're going to jump to the distillation towers. So these distillation towers are taking the output of the oil crackers. So we're steam cracking naphtha, heavy fuel, and light fuel into severely steam cracked heavy fuel, lightly steam cracked light fuel, and moderately steam cracked naphtha, or naphtha. I'm saying naphtha. I'm sticking with it. I think you guys corrected me the last time, but I'm calling it naphtha. It's naphtha for me. So we should have a bookmark page here for the outputs. So yeah, this is the oil cracker recipe, and then we distill and we get 12 different outputs. An item which I've completely forgot about, but we'll worry about that last. We're just interested in the fluids. It's really only carbon dust, so we may or may not void it. Carbon dust is easy enough to come by, but I mean, we might as well keep... Yeah, you know what? Let's just add an output bus. Yeah, might as well not be wasteful, right? We can add the output bus on all these distillation towers. So what do we get from the distillation towers? We get heavy fuel, light fuel, at least from naphtha. But the other ones, the light fuel and the heavy fuel give naphtha in the second slot. And then the light fuel gives heavy fuel in the first slot. So yeah, effectively we get more of the input ingredients, which should be sent back to the oil crackers to be steam cracked. Then after that, we also get toluene, benzene, butene, butadiene, propane, propene, ethane, ethylene, and methane. Now then, we have to decide which ones we want to control the machines. So, in default behavior in the new versions of GTNH, similar to Community Edition, we have this feature here to void excess fluids or not. And if you select void nothing, it's going to stop if the output hatch is full and it does not have enough space for the outputs. In fact, I think we can see this here. It says not enough space for fluid output. And we can use this to our advantage to stop the machine from overproducing any fluid. And we also don't have to have any of the redstone control on the machine controller. It's automatically built in. So you might remember in the old LCR room, we used to have all this redstone wiring. In fact, it's in this chest here. Yeah, red alloy wire and a bunch of red crystals all over the place, machine controllers. We don't need to use that anymore. We can just rely on the machine stopping itself whenever the outputs are full. However, we don't necessarily want any of these fluids to be able to control the machine. For example, butene. I mean, if we fill up on butene, we don't want it to stop producing ethylene, because we're going to value ethylene higher than the butene. It has more uses. It's more useful for us. Butene... I mean, you can use butene to lightly hydrocrack, or yeah, steam crack or hydrocrack, and then distill again. And you get a couple of other things, more ethylene, more propene, more methane, which we might set up, and that's why I've left some space here. But the point is, we don't want butene to stop any of these distillation towers. So essentially what I've done here is I've went through and made sure that we have super tanks, extra super tank buffers on the output hatches of the machine here. And we can use the void overflow feature on the super tank to void on site, because one of the rules I'm going to set for ourselves here is to never enable voiding on main fluid storage. So any of these super tanks here are never ever going to be set to void overflow. If we want the voiding capability of a fluid, then we set it on site and let the machines void or let the super tanks void. Are you following so far? Good. Let's continue. So checking the list again for the distillation tower. We're going to come back to the bottom two, but toluene we're safe to void. Benzene we are also safe to void. Butene we're safe to void. Butadiene, propane, propene, ethane. But I think we're going to stop on ethylene or methane. So for those two, we're just going to have them go into a dual interface, and that is going to go into any available storage. Right, so it's going to come out of the output hatch, into the dual interface, and then into the filtered super tank, into main fluid storage. Now, if this output hatch here fills up of, I think it would be methane. I mean, we could lock the output hatch here, but the distillation tower is always going to put the outputs in order of the recipe that you can see in NEI. So it always goes light fuel at the bottom, methane on top. So yeah, essentially, if it fills up on methane, then because of this feature in the machine controller, it's going to stop. And it's not going to consume any more inputs. And yeah, it's going to be stuck until we send the methane elsewhere. Now this might change specifically for methane, but for now, this is the setup I've decided we're going to run. So methane and also the next one, ethylene, I believe, is the second to last fluid, ethylene. We're also going to stop it on ethylene because that is used in polyethylene, it's used in PVC, I think. Yeah, ethylene is one of the most important chemicals that we get out of this distillation process. It's used a lot in the LCRs we're about to set up. Yeah, it's used in polyethylene here, vinyl chloride, a bunch of different stuff. So we want the machines to stop and not void any excess ethylene. Then for the next one, ethane, we are going to void overflow on ethane, enable fluid auto output, lock the fluid, and enable from input side. And then again, we're going to send this back to main fluid storage. Oh yeah, we can't put it on dense cable. Okay, we'll have to do that. That should leave us enough channels, right? We have 32 on the dense cable. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channels. Yeah, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 for each. That's more than 32, right? Yeah, that's 36. So we'll have to add an extra P2P channel to give us more channels here. I think we're using like a decent amount over here as well. 29 of 32 here. And then, yeah, it's going to be 36 here. But yeah, this ethane is going to go into a dual interface and then back to main fluid storage. Let me actually double check I plugged all those in. I think I did. And I didn't. Of course not. But all these should be filtered. Ethylene. There's ethane there. And all of these are also going to be on high priority. So remember, high priority is insert first, extract last. And this is one of the other benefits to switching away from fluid P2P. So essentially you want all of your main providers of fluid to be on high priority so that it's used last. And for secondary producers of fluid, you want on low priority, which is something we can do here with the extra super tank system on the machines. Yeah, so ethane, propene, propane, butadiene, butene, benzene, toluene, all of those we want to void, and we'll leave the last two. So we want dual interfaces on everything here. And we also want to hide from the interface terminal. I think there's a way you can copy and paste, right? Does the copy paste tool work for this type of thing? I would imagine it does, right? Copy and paste, and this should be... Oh no, it's not. Huh, maybe it doesn't work for dual interfaces. And this is just so it doesn't show up in case we accidentally add a recipe pattern to this thing. Because it's obviously not going to do anything. It's going to try to send to the super tank, but... Yeah, this is only designed... Or these dual interfaces are only here to ingest fluid and send it away to fluid storage. Yeah, we want these three buttons and void excess on all of them. And I don't know if there's a way to... Is there a way to copy paste this? No, I guess it only works for covers. Okay. Loads and loads of clicks. Loads and loads of clicks. Except for the bottom two, yeah. Because these two we're going to come back to. And we'll also want to flip these two to face the dual interface, the top two. Like so. Okay, so now coming back to outputs 2 and 3, which is going to be either naphtha, light fuel, or heavy fuel, which again also goes to the oil crackers and then is sent here as input. These are going to be secondary producers of light fuel and naphtha and heavy fuel. So instead of the dual interface here, we're going to add a fluid storage bus. Oh, of course I don't have any crafted. How many are we going to need here? 6? 2 for each distillation tower? Yep. Oh, come on, this thing is stuck again. Is it in here? Did I just... Am I the problem? Is it me again? Oh my goodness, what is going on? I think I figured out why. This is not the recipe for a fluid storage bus. I think maybe it used to be. I seem to remember thinking that's a strange recipe for a fluid storage bus, but there's actually lapis plates in the recipe. And I think this changed on the update. I could be wrong about that. But I guess that's why it didn't work before. Oh, and by the way, we're also out of diamonds, which I thought would happen one of these days. And diamonds are used in the interface craft somewhere. I think it's also, yeah, it's also in the fluid processors for both the engineering processor and the fluid circuit. We need diamond chipsets, and it's essentially a lot of diamond plates. And for all these LCRs, we are going to need a lot of diamonds and a lot of Applied Energistics devices and things of that nature. So we do need to fix this situation like ASAP. However, there is a trick you can do with diamond dust. So there's no actual recipe to turn diamond dust back into regular diamonds. You can electrolyze for carbon dust, which is Why would anyone ever do this recipe? But we do have a lot of diamond dust, 2,500. And what we can do is actually send it through the implosion compressor. And this is going to give us industrial diamonds. And then what we're going to do is take the recipe for diamond block. I think it's called block of diamond, right? This one here, which should use the regular diamonds. And we can switch this out with industrial diamonds, which obviously we can convert from the dust. And this should give us a regular diamond block, not necessarily an industrial diamond block, right? Aha, in the compressor, it gives you a regular block of diamonds, which we are going to do. This will go in the compressor. And then, yeah, we can cut that down into plates, and we can use that for all of our Applied Energistics devices. In fact, I'm going to get a bit more of this going, because as far as I'm aware, you don't really need a whole lot of diamond dust for many things. Careful not to place the industrial TNT down, because that would be a disaster. Since you can't pick this back up once you place it, it has to explode. I'm pretty sure anyway. Which would be a disaster in here. And, oh yeah, this machine here. I'm glad to see it's not got any maintenance issues. This is slowly making us radon. 500,000. Oh, that's excellent. It does look like it's almost out of uranium though. Oh yeah, we have plenty of uranium-238 dust. Yeah, let me fill up that drawer there. And that is also something that has to find a place in the void dimension. So anyways, back to our distillation towers here. We are going to add fluid storage buses to outputs 2 and 3. And what this allows us to do is have a secondary storage for this fluid. So let's get these on all the super tanks. And we also want to enable overflow voiding on this one. Also allow from input side, lock the fluid, and fluid auto output. Oh, wait a second. Distilled water? Wait. Oh, no. No. That's what happens when you leave the fluid storage bus unfiltered. We don't want that. Let's void that. Oh no, the refinery gas went in here as well. Oh, okay, we don't really care about refinery gas. We'll avoid that one as well. And these two, yeah, I didn't plug those two in yet. That's probably the downside to using fluid storage buses, is you have to make sure they're filtered before you plug them in. And actually, these are also going to be on extract only. We do not want this as a valid storage destination for any naphtha to enter the system. We only want naphtha to be buffered in main fluid storage. And we also want these two storage buses to be on low priority, so that the fluids stored here are used first. So if we take, for example, severely steam cracked heavy fuel, in the distillation tower, the bottom slot is going to give us light fuel. So any light fuel made in this distillation tower, we want to be sent to the oil crackers and used first, before it takes any light fuel from the chemical reactors, which is making it from raw oil. Since this is basically the beginning of the chain, and we're just recycling some of the light fuel, so we want the recycled products to be used first. And that is what having low priority storage here allows us to do. Let's also make sure we filter this back. It was light fuel, right? Yeah. Make sure we set a filter here for light fuel on the storage bus. Oh yeah, it doesn't let you do it like that for some reason. Has to be specifically the cell. I don't know, there must be some different NBT data. And the second one here is going to be naphtha, yeah. Okay, so everything should now have a channel here, and we should be set up to run these distillation towers. The other thing you might notice here is we have a fluid P2P. Wait, 3, didn't you just say you were getting rid of fluid P2P? And yes, I did. And this is where I changed my mind, like last minute. We are going to keep using fluid P2P, but there's one rule for the fluid P2P. So we're only going to use fluid P2P on fluids which we don't need in the Applied Energistics system, and that there's only ever going to be one use for. So 3 primary examples of that is severely steam cracked heavy fuel, lightly steam cracked light fuel, and moderately steam cracked naphtha. If we check the recipes for, or the uses for these, the only use is to either, put it in a tin can or distill it. The tin can recipe is irrelevant. And so, yeah, the only use is to distill. which is what we're doing here. So we only ever actually need this to go from point A to point B. So this is essentially like running a fluid pipe through the floor to here. It's just that instead we're using our ME system and we're just putting a point-to-point, or P2P, from one side to the other, and that's how we'll insert into the machine. So it's only for fluids which have zero other uses other than to be chained between two machines, essentially. Another example of the fluid P2P is here for the sulfuric fuels. So after we distill raw oil, if we check the recipe for raw oil in the distillation tower, we're using circuit 9, is going to give us sulfuric heavy fuel, sulfuric light fuel, sulfuric naphtha, naphthenic acid, and sulfuric gas. And these we have to desulfurize. So essentially chemical react with hydrogen. So those 5 fluids are being sent into these 4 chemical reactors. I'm just ignoring the naphthenic acid. We're just going to let that void. Because naphthenic acid, there's a couple of uses, and we might make use of it in the future, but for now we're just going to store our super tank and void the excess. We're not even going to bother to send it into our AE system or anything. It's just that we don't want the machine to stop on that fluid there. Then it goes into dual interfaces, for example light fuel, sent back to main fluid storage, but because this is the primary producer and the main fluid storage is on high priority, it's going to use any recycled from the distillation towers first, and it's going to send it into the steam crackers here, which we're using fluid export buses. I was debating a lot between which method we should use for insertion, and I ultimately decided to go for fluid export buses because I think they're a bit faster overall if we use acceleration cards. The other option to the fluid export bus would be to use a dual interface to stock the fluid, which is in fact what I originally was going to do something like this into an input hatch and then pump on the side. But A, this is slower, and B, I don't think it's as TPS efficient, so it lags the game a bit more. And lag prevention is a very big part of the game, actually. I'm going to talk about that in future episodes, but we want to be as TPS friendly as possible, especially because our base is going to get so large. But yeah, I hope that little segment there, well, pretty long segment, this is going to be another long episode, but yeah, you guys said you enjoyed the longer ones. So I hope that made sense for any of you guys doing petrochemistry or fluid movement in this pack. But I'm going to try to reiterate in future episodes. For now though, I'm going to keep working on this and then give you another progress update at the end of the video, with all the LCRs built, hopefully. And one other thing I just realised here is for these oil cracking recipes, well, it would help if we want a steam crack that we give it steam, and we're not making steam anywhere, so I'm going to have to set up steam production. It's meant to come from this dual interface here. I think I even have it filtered, yeah, steam in the dual interface. This is the only one where we're not using the export bus, since we can save some channels, but I might still switch it out, since we need to give it to all 3 oil crackers. So many hours later here, we have it all done. Every single machine is now ported over to the Void. Check it out. And oh my goodness, this took a while, but I thoroughly enjoyed this process, to be honest. It's been a while since I've done any proper big chemistry projects in Minecraft, and I love it. It's honestly amazing. Hooking up all the machines, setting up all the logic, as I stated before. So yeah, pretty much just followed all of our fluid rules that we established before to port over all of the chemical reactors, every single one of them. And check in the old room here. By the way, ignore this. I'm kind of... Don't look at the ME controller. But yeah, every single machine here in this room is now gone. I did keep the wiring for some reason. Yeah, we can reuse a lot of this stuff. I mean, even though we use significantly less P2Ps than we did before, I mean, they're still useful for especially the ME P2P or EU P2P we could convert them to. All the wires and stuff underneath as well. I don't know why, to be honest, I didn't reuse these. I just crafted new ones to fit the new machines. However, I am actually quite liking the way this space is turning out, is shaping up. Oh yeah, I did move that LCR, that hydrogen sulfide LCR. And it is down here, next to the other sulfuric acid producer. This is just as a recycling step for hydrogen sulfide. But Yeah, we'll go through a lot of these LCRs and their uses as we start to debug this system, because I have no doubts that I missed some of the filters, and like some things are definitely not working as intended. I mean, with the amount of filters that I've set recently is just insane, so there's going to be some mistakes somewhere. So the power cables underneath actually turned out not so bad, I think, for both sides. Except for this, whatever this is. We're taking HV around an LV cable, which I'm not really such a fan of. So you know what, we do have some spare HV energy hatches. Whatever these machines are, they're going to get an upgrade. Actually, what is this stuff? It's epoxid and epichlorohydrin. Actually, that deserves an upgrade, because those are kind of slow recipes from what I remember. I think it's like 30 seconds each, or 24 seconds. So yeah, we might as well just upgrade this to HV. And we can take out all this LV cable here. So for most of the machines, I did mostly upgrade them. Some of them, though, I did keep at LV since this is a fully passive system, right? For passive products, you don't need speed. You don't need speed, you just need consistency. And I suppose also big output buffers, which we have in most cases. Okay, this is HV. We want HV power into these energy hatches. I went kind of overboard with the transformers, to be honest. We could have shared a lot more than we did, but I just wanted to make sure it was looking... Oh, don't forget to paint them. I just wanted to make sure that the cables sat nice underneath and didn't tangle too much. So we can also remove this one here, right? Yeah, we can remove this cable and connect these two together, like so. And we'll have to turn the machines back on. And there we go, we're back in business. There is one situation here which I'm not so happy with, where we have an electrolyzer. This used to be hidden behind the machine in the old space, but I mean, there's not really any hiding from this thing now. And it's basically just recycling salt water, so we need to set up another electrolyzer. But I don't have that crafted yet. And similarly, this electrolyzer is for the indium dust, or the lead zinc solution, which is a byproduct of making indium dust. And I think this might also be moved, but for the time being, I just plugged it in here, since we had channels and also power underneath. Anyways, guys, with that, I think we're going to wrap up the episode, but just before we go, I did record the playtime just after placing the first two distillation towers, and you should be seeing that now. I think it was 11:47, I think, if I remember right. Let's check the playtime again now. So I just finished this about an hour ago. I've been messing around with some of the cables, just trying to neaten it up a little bit. So you can basically minus an hour off this time we're about to see here. So minutes played, 11:88. Are you kidding me? That's almost a little bit embarrassing. That is almost a little bit embarrassing, I'm not going to lie. But hey, I enjoyed myself, so time you enjoy is not time wasted. But speaking of time, this is actually getting a very long episode, so thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to be back with some more GTNH very soon. I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye for now, everyone.